Hey, moms and dads, don't you just love when your child reminds you about a school project at bedtime the night before it's due? With Skylight Calendar, you can avoid those last minute oops moments. It visually displays your family schedule in one place with different colors for each family member, so you can eliminate those last minute surprises that upset your kids. Skylight Calendar is a Wi-Fi connected digital display that syncs seamlessly with all your calendars and visually showcases your family's schedule on an HD touchscreen. You can manage events, chores, and grocery lists on the go with the free Skylight app. This is a game changer for families like ours. And your happiness is Skylight's happiness. So if in 120 days you are not 100% thrilled, you can return it for a full refund, no questions asked. This is a great Mother's Day gift. And right now, Skylight is offering our listeners $30 off their 15-inch calendars by going to skylightcal.com/calm. Go to skylightcal.com/calm for $30 off your 15-inch calendar. That's skylightcal.com/calm.
Welcome to Parenting Teens with Dr. Cam, the podcast dedicated to helping you tackle the challenges of parenting teenagers without the drama. I'm your host, Dr. Cam. Let's get on with the show. Hey parents, if you're struggling to get through to your strong-willed teenager, feeling like every conversation turns into a battle, you're not alone. Today we're diving into 3 ways to motivate strong-willed teenagers. I'm joined by a special guest who's a game changer in this area, Kirk Martin. Kirk is the founder of CelebrateCalm.com and host of the Calm Parenting Podcast. Kirk has mastered the art of transforming defiance and power struggles into calm, productive conversations. Today, he's going to share some practical strategies not to only get our teens to listen to us, but also build a close, trusting relationship with them. Kirk, welcome to the show.
Dr. Cam, I'm super excited to be here.
Yes, this is great. So let's start. I always like to start with a backstory. What inspired you to start working with parents and their teenagers?
Our own son. So our son Casey came out of the womb with boxing gloves on, right? That kind of strong-willed kid that fights you over everything. And Dr. Cam, I'm like most parents. Like I parented like my dad did, right? Which was fear and intimidation, yelling and screaming. And as you know, with a strong-willed child, they're fight or flight kids. Like I always tell dads, you can double down on your discipline and your strong-willed child's going to like go 10 times harder back at you.
Exactly.
And so I spent basically the first 7 or 8 years of his life trying to change him, right? Because I thought, well, he just needs to listen to me. He needs to be. And then I realized, no, I'm a freak. I need to change myself. Like I'm yelling at my son, you need to calm down. And I know inside he was like, apparently you haven't mastered that skill. You're like 35. So everything changed in our home when I changed, stopped feeding off all of and we'll talk about like our anxiety as parents, my control issues, my perfectionism. And then we did something a little weird that my wife hated, but I said, I've got this awesome idea. Why don't we take these strong-willed kids on the spectrum and invite them into our home? So we'll have like 10, 12, 15 difficult kids and we'll call it Lego camp because all kids love Legos.
Yeah.
And so the idea was, we would get them into our home in real life situations and then teach them impulse control, how to control their emotions, social skills. And all the kids came, they didn't know they were kind of being worked on. It was a version of like play therapy, but not in an office. Because you know, you experience this. The kids, you ask them questions. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
And so we did that for a decade and we had about 1,500 kids come through our home. So that's kind of the backstory. And then we just started doing speaking. And then I shifted, Dr. Cam, from working with kids, which was the easy part, to working with the parents.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Right. Because the parents, we just have so much baggage that we bring into it. And so, that's the backstory. But it's been a cool ride.
I love that. And I love that it started with you and your own self-awareness, because I think that's what all parenting journey is stopping in exactly what you're saying, going, wait a second, what is my part in this dynamic? Because if we're focused on changing our teen, they're not going to change if we're not willing to change.
Yeah, true.
So
And it, go ahead.
no, go.
No, I was just thinking it's like that when you're looking at your, like that middle school child that's been sitting in the same hoodie sweatshirt for 18 straight days playing video games. And you start to think like, who is going to marry this child? Who would possibly hire this child? Right. You project into the future and then you start lecturing and picking out everything they're doing wrong. And they eventually either shut down or just say, forgive the language, but inside they're kind of like, screw you.
Yeah.
Like, you're never happy with me. And the good news, Dr. Cam, as you know, is if our success as a family is dependent on changing my wife or my child, then we're in trouble because I
Yes.
can't change another human. But if it's dependent on changing myself, we've got a shot at this. And we'll get into this, but it's so cool. Like when you change yourself, it actually changes your kids' reactions to you.
Yeah.
So
100%. Like, and when you said you started talking to the parents, my whole philosophy too is teens aren't going to change if we're not working with the parents. And if we work with the parents, we don't necessarily even have to work with the teenagers, because once the parents change, the teenagers do come along. So let's talk about this kid that you just mentioned, because I know many of them, the wearing the sweatshirt and just kind of up in their rooms playing their games and mumbling when we ask them how their day is. And we do, I think a lot of us either take it very personally, like, why are they just pushing me out of their life? And so we try to keep inserting ourselves into their lives, and they push back more and try to push us out more. Or we demand that they come down and spend time with us and sit there. I don't care if you enjoy it or not. You're just sitting with us. Why do neither one of those approaches work?
Well, kids, I mean, you know this better than I do, but like with teenagers, they're supposed to be independent, right? Like it would be, I always like this formulation. It would be weird if a 15-year-old was like, Mom, I'd really rather spend time with you than my friends. Like that would be a weird, right? They're supposed to be kind of in that stage. And especially with strong-willed kids, the more you push, the more they resist.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's about drawing them to me and leading. It's almost like, like when our son was a teenager and he would bring something up. You know, as parents, we always have these lectures in the back of our head. Oh, you brought up friends. Let me give you lecture 42B on how to choose good friends, right? Make good choices, son. And they're like, ugh. And so occasionally I'd say, you know what, Case? My son's name was Casey and still is Casey. So I'd say, Casey, hey, I've got some thoughts about that. I need to go get started on dinner. I'm going to go out to the garage. If you want to come get me later, I'd love to share my thoughts with you. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't forcing it on him. Now, here's the thing as moms and dads, they're not going to come and say, Dad, you have so much life wisdom. I'm ready to learn, right? They're probably going to come in and say, okay, what are your stupid ideas?
Exactly.
And I don't take it personally. No. Any interaction that I have with a teenager that's remotely positive, I'm like, that was a win. Right. Like it's resetting expectations.
Yeah.
Like I was just actually recording a podcast this morning and a mom was like, I have a preteen who's sassy. I'm like, it would be weird if she wasn't sassy.
Yeah.
Right. Like
that's a sign of healthy development. Yay.
Yeah. It would almost be like, what is she up to that she's not being a little, right. And there's differences between being outright defiant and like, we get that, you're a B word, I hate you. Well, that's a different issue. But normal sass is like, welcome to being 13 and 12 and 16.
Exactly. And Kirk, what I've seen too is that comes along like that extreme attitude comes after a lot of time with the other attitude that's kind of normal attitude not being accepted and being punished and being shot down all the time. That's when it starts getting really ugly because they've tried everything else and it doesn't work. Have you seen that?
Yeah, Dr. Cam, do you think that's I'll ask because you're an expert with teens, is once they've crossed that threshold, that really angry and really frustrated response, to me, and I want to see if you agree, is it's almost like a crying out of like, look, I've been trying to tell you this and you're not listening, but they're not mature enough to say, mother, father, you've not adjusted well to my new independence. Could we please have a discussion about this? So it just comes out. Is that kind of what you're
It's
finding?
100%, and that's what the teens tell me all the time.
Hmm.
And several of them have actually tried saying, not exactly the words you've used,
Right.
but have tried saying that and gotten shot down. Like, you're being disrespectful telling me what I need to do. Right.
Right.
And so teens don't have a voice. And even if they see this and ask for something to be changed, they don't get heard, they get shut down. And that being
Mhm.
shut down a few times leads to this I don't care anymore. If you're going to make my life miserable, I'm going to make your life miserable. And I see a lot of that.
And they'll
Um,
win at that because the strong-willed kids don't care about consequences, right? So you'll be like, well, I'm going to take away all your video games. And they're like, fine, I
yeah.
will literally sit in my room and stare at the wall.
Mhm.
And then the parents are going to freak out. It's not about winning, right? In that situation. So good. Yeah, I found, I mean, people of all ages want to be heard. And it doesn't mean we have to endlessly listen to every little complaint, not that. But most of our teenagers, they're really bright kids,
Mhm.
right? And I always tell parents, I'm like, listen, they're trying to tell you something. It doesn't mean you give in, you don't buy them everything they want, not that. But when they do bring something up, listen. I like the more humble approach, which is saying like, hey, I need to apologize to you because I think I've spent the last 5, 7, 13 years just lecturing you
Yeah.
and just talking all the time. And I haven't really listened. And if you start listening, well, then they're going to come to you too, right? They might
Yeah.
spend like 7 minutes with you instead of like a minute and a half at night. And so, right, like, because I'm always with I'm like, take any opportunity you can. Because typical teenage life to me is, especially during the school year, they come home, they don't want to talk about school. So, by the way, can I share this one? Kind of
Yes,
a cool
please.
idea. So, the strong-willed kids that we work with, they they're not always great at school. They're really smart, but they're not. So asking them after school, "Hey, how was your day at school?" Is like, "Hey, how was that day at the place that you don't have a lot of
Yeah,
friends?
it
You're
sucked.
bored." Yeah, yes, it sucks.
It
What
sucked.
else do you want to know, mom? Right? And then the next is, "Well, do you have any homework?" "No, I got it all done in study hall." And they just lied to you.
Yeah.
But that afternoon time after school, when you ask about their day, it sounds like an interrogation to them because it's filled with our anxiety. How did you do? How did you do on that test? Because I need you to well do on that test so you can get a good grade, so you can get into the right college, so you can get a good job, so you get that. And so after school, sometimes one is complete silence at times can be really wonderful. And if you want to have a conversation, this is really cool. Say, hey, you know what? Something happened to me today at the post office at work or in the political world. I'm curious,
Mhm.
what would you do if you were in my situation?
Yeah.
And now you switch it from interrogating them about their day and you're listening to their ideas about your day. It's a
Yeah.
really cool thing to get them to open up.
It is amazing, and I want to throw in there too that because parents will listen to this and then they'll go do it, and they'll ask exactly what you just said, and their kids will be like, "I don't care, what are you," right? So the reason I say this is because it's not something that you can just snap and go, "Okay, I'm going to change my approach today," and they're immediately going to change their response. That
Mm.
does not happen, right?
No, it's
What can
immediate,
parents
Dr.
expect?
Cam. All you have to do is one time, and then I'm kidding. No, of
Yeah,
course, yeah.
exactly, and
Well,
everything
because
changes.
because by the time you get to the teen years, you've had at least 13 years, especially the kids we work with. I mean, they're in trouble from the time they're little.
Yeah.
They have a defensive kind of defenses around their heart. They've been in trouble a lot. It's going to take time. And I always encourage parents like I'm after the really long term. I'm after these kids bringing their grandkids to you, right? Because you work with these families. I mean, sometimes the relationship has been severed and hurt for 13 or 14 years. So I play the long game.
Mhm.
And so, look, you change. Anyway, I want you to change, not because you're hoping for a result, but just because it's the right thing to do,
Yeah.
right? And it will bear fruit. It sometimes just takes time. Yeah, so do it a few times and don't be like, I tried your method and he said, I don't know. I'm like, okay, because he's waiting for you, because here's what he knows. He's going to say something, and then your next question is going to be, so how was school today?
Yeah,
Did you get your homework? Right? Like,
it's a trap. It's a trap.
You know what? An apology. I've realized as I've gotten older, apologies, praising kids are all just statements of fact. Hey, I want to apologize because for the first 13 years of your life, I think I've sent the message that you're not capable of being successful. I've micromanaged you. I lecture you. I'm always on you about your room, about your hygiene, about this. And that's about my own anxiety. And I want to apologize. It's not a groveling. I don't like, I've been such a bad parent. It's just an acknowledgement of truth that's the way I've done it. And I can imagine that has made you feel, and then you fill that in. Like, you could never please me. That was mine with my son. Hey, Casey, it's like, you can never please me because I'm never really happy, right? I'll say like, hey, good job, but... And so when I started having these discussions with him, he never looked at me and said, Dad, that's so meaningful to me that you would acknowledge that, right? Not in the moment, but I could see it was like, oh, my dad's getting it now. And it was connecting with his heart, and it slowly began to shift our relationship.
Yeah. I think that is so beautiful because we need to shift our focus not from getting the response we want from our kids, because we're setting them up to fail and us to be disappointed, but setting it up so that we are showing up the way we want to show up for them consistently and without expectation of how they're going to respond. And I think that expectation's very difficult to let go of.
That's good. Dr. Cam, that's good. We could end it right there.
Right there, mic drop, boom.
No, that's the hard part. But that's the same as it is for, a 3-year-old. It's like, well, when's my toddler going to start to get some self-discipline? I'm like, she's not 40. Okay. Like, chill. They're developed. So yeah, I'm with you on that of you do the right thing. And the really great thing, which I know you found, is it just changes you as a person. And all that anxiety, because we bring that to all of our other relationships. And now, especially in the teen years, like moms and dads, you've done a good job with these kids, right? If you're listening to or watching a parenting podcast, it means you're a good parent, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All the bad parents don't listen to our podcast.
Right.
So you've done everything. You've given every lecture you could possibly imagine. You've hopefully modeled things pretty well. So throw that extra energy, because you don't have to make them sandwiches all the time, and you've got some extra time when they're teens. Throw that into changing yourself. It will free you to enjoy the rest of your life. And your kids will watch and say, I just saw my mom or my dad change right in front of my eyes. I mean, that's the biggest lecture you could give.
Yeah, it is absolutely amazing when we do that. Now, I want to get into, because I know there's parents still going, okay, you told me that if I listen and I have a difficult teen, you're going to tell me how to motivate them to do what I want, because they've heard this and they're disregarding it because they still want their teen to do what they need them to do, which happens a lot too. So let's talk about the parents who have these kids that are pushing back, and the parents have that fear. If my child doesn't get up and do something, if they stick in their room all day long and aren't motivated to do a thing, they are going to end up on the street without any relationships, struggling. How do I put fire in his belly?
You can't put fire in the child's belly. That's step number one, is you can't do it. Look, moms and dads, you've tried for like 15 years. You tried rewards and money and bribery. You've done every possible consequence and punishment. And it's like 15 years later, and it's like none of that ever worked, right? And so I'll say step number one is just realizing that you can't do that for them, and that building your connection with them is the most important thing you can do. And so building the connection, by the way, building connection, cool thing to do with a teenager. I'll give you two. One is to bond over something they're interested in. I know as a dad, it was always, well, let me get you to be interested in what I'm interested in. And I used to take agenda-free time with my son. And our son was super into cars. I hated cars. But every Saturday morning, we went to a car dealership to look at cars and test drive them. It was agenda-free time. I wasn't allowed to make dad analogies. You know, Casey, life is like a car. It has brakes and you need to. So we just enjoyed each other. Look, try to enjoy your teens. Smile at some of the attitude, because you have smart kids. And even in some of their smart aleck comments, at times I would look at Casey and I'd be like, that was actually really disrespectful, but really good.
Yeah.
Like, well done. Now, you're not going anywhere for a couple days, but really, I'm kidding. But you're really well done. Enjoy them that way. You know, a cool one with strong-willed kids? Ask them to teach you something. We've spent their entire lives, do this, do it this way, do it this way. Ask them to help you with technology. Ask them to teach you something. I know, especially as a dad, when I started asking my son, hey, could you help me with that? It gave him a sense of agency, that he wasn't the little boy anymore, and that he had something to give.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, you just have to fight that anxiety. Your kids will change. Look, now some of you are ultra responsible as kids, and that's why you have so much resentment now, which is your own issue. But some of us, look, I'm a guy. I was a dopey 15-year-old boy. Like, if you looked at me at 15, you were like, how is that kid ever going to be successful? They grow and they change. But I will promise you, the sooner that you release them, in fact, it's really powerful language. I release you to be the person you're supposed to be. I release you from my expectations. That's actually really powerful.
That's really powerful. I love that.
Can you talk about that for a minute? Because you're good at this stuff with teens, but that releasing. So let's geek out together for a minute over gut health, because I'm really into this. I just learned that prebiotics are the food that help fuel the growth of healthy bacteria, the probiotics, in your gut. So you have to have both. And that's why AG1 helps my digestion, calms my stomach, and keeps me regular. Look, I've loved my morning AG1 routine for years, long before AG1 became a wonderful partner to the podcast. It's a quick, easy win because I start my day with 75 vitamins, probiotics, prebiotics, and whole food sourced ingredients. I just don't have that stomach distress anymore, where that bloating, that kind of interferes with your day and puts you on edge. Plus, my weight is down. I've got energy for this hiking season. I'm drinking my AG1 right now while I'm recording this, and I think you should as well. AG1 is offering new subscribers a free $76 gift when you sign up. You'll get a welcome kit, a bottle of D3 and K2, which I love, and 5 free travel packs in your first box. So check out drinkag1.com/calm to get this offer. That's drinkag1.com/calm to be kind to your gut. When we moved to our home, we were quoted a cost of over $20,000 for some trees and shrubs, but we just saved 90% with fast-growing trees, and they helped us get the exact privacy and flowering trees and shrubs for our specific climate, and it's delivered right to our door in days. Fast Growing Trees is the biggest online nursery in the U.S. with thousands of different plants and over 2 million happy customers, including us. They take the hassle out of creating your dream yard. Their Alive and Thrive guarantees ensures your plants arrive happy and healthy. Plus, get support from trained plant experts on call to help you choose and care for the right plants. This spring, Fast Growing Trees has the best deals for your yard. A up to half off on select plans. Plus, listeners to our show get an additional 15% off their first purchase when using the code CALM at checkout. That's an additional 15% off at fastgrowingtrees.com using the code CALM. fastgrowingtrees.com/CALM. Offer is valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions may apply.
What I hear from teenagers is they spend most of their teen lives trying to get the approval and acceptance of their parents, which means they need to disregard who they are because they keep getting told over and over again who they authentically are isn't okay, isn't good enough, isn't right. And so they start questioning who they are and doubting who they are and not having the confidence to make decisions or to even give their opinion because they feel like, oh my gosh, it's going to be wrong. And I have kids that are shut down. When we release them of our expectations, we kind of cut that cord. I think a lot of parents, they are not able to separate their kids from themselves, and they see their kids as an extension of themselves, which is why we want to control them because this is what we want them to do. And if we go, they're a whole nother person. Our job is not for them to adapt to our needs. We're supposed to adapt to their needs as who they are as a separate person. And I think that's a really big challenge for parents.
Dr. Kim, that's awesome. I mean, that alone, if you do that, and then I would say the second step would be, and this would be my challenge for every parent for just the next week, affirm what your child is already doing well, just relentlessly. Just, hey, nice job with that. And with strong-willed kids, don't make a big deal out of it because when you discipline, when you praise them, it's always short and sweet. Hey, I saw how you handle that. Shows me you're growing up. Fist bump, walk out of the room. Don't expect, Mom, thanks for affirming me. It means a lot. And I walk around and I find like, you know what? I appreciate you. You actually brought your plate back from the table to the sink. Maybe tomorrow night you'll even bring your utensils. Fist, I'm kidding. But I praise for progress. Look, even things of like, typical teen is come home from school, open the refrigerator, keep the door open, and let all the cold air out of the refrigerator. Eat a snack, throw the paper or something down on the counter, go up to their bedroom. They come down for dinner. Can I be excused? Right after 3.5 minutes to go text with their friends. They come back down at 10:30 or strong-willed kids like 11:30, open the fridge again, drink out of the milk jug, right? It's all irritating.
Yeah.
And so when you start drawing them to you and they come and sit, simple things like, you know what, I really love listening to you and getting your perspective. Like, that's it. Don't make it, you know what, it really means a lot to me when you spend time, like those big mommy things are just like, ugh.
It's
like,
uncomfortable.
they're just like, Mom, come on. But so I would, for the next week, affirm literally everything good that you see because it's there already. It's just you're projecting you want more.
Yeah.
And if I could give you one that's fantastic is your kids who play video games. This was a big realization for me is I hate video games and I hated Casey playing because I was, we were outside as kids and all those reasons. But I realized when he was playing video games, he was goal oriented. He was persistent. Yes! He was a leader because his sole goal was like win or get to the next level. And he wouldn't eat or sleep or pee or do his work or do anything. And so one day I said, Casey, you know what I've recognized? When you're on your video games, you're motivated. You are persistent, you're a leader, you're conscientious, you don't give up. All those qualities are there. Yeah. And one day, when you get a vision for your life, you're going to put all those qualities together. You're going to crush it in life. And then I gave him a fist bump and I walked out of the room and I drank. I'm kidding. But you're going to want to because it's like, but when's he going to put that into studying? Because your strong-willed kids are going to do the bare minimum just to get by. Resist the anxiety and affirm. And then if we have time, I'll give the final thing that I would do.
No, this is great.
You sure?
Yeah, do it.
Okay, because I really like listening to you. You're really smart at this. So here's my internal motivation thing. 3 steps. Number 1, make a list of your child's natural gifts, talents, and passions. What are they just good at doing? Not the stuff you want them to do, but their natural talents. And then related to that, who do they connect well with? Because strong-willed kids tend not to connect well with their peers, but they're really good with older people, little kids, and animals.
Yeah.
Second step, find ways for your kids to use their natural gifts, talents, and passions outside the home. Because watch, the neurotypical or the kind of compliant kids who do really well in school, all day at school, they're using their natural gifts. They're good at sitting still, memorizing information, and writing essays, and everybody's like, you're such a good student. You're going to go to a great college. And so they have a lot of confidence. Our strong-willed kids, they're just not always good at the kid world, and they're not good at school. So they're never getting really built their confidence. But I know moms and dads, you've seen this. Your strong-willed child, for other people, they're amazing. Because other adults are like, your son is wonderful to be around. And you're like, seriously? Like,
is it the same person?
Is it that same? Do you want to adopt him for a couple of years? Yeah. And so give them opportunity to use their gifts, talents, and passions outside the home. And then the third thing is accountable to another adult. Other adults can see good things in your kids that you can't because they don't have to tell your child to study and go to school and brush their teeth and go to bed. They can also hold your kids accountable. Like Dr. Cam, if I had any of the parents, if you sent your teenager to my house, my first question isn't going to be, did you get your schoolwork done? Did you make your bed? Right? But my first question is going to be like, so what do you really love doing? And I'm going to ask them about their gifts and passion. I'll be like, well, I have some things around the house. Could you help me with that? Yeah. And then when they do, I'll be like, dude, you're amazing at that. Yeah. And so I'll give you one example because I don't know how we're doing on time. So I was doing this live event and this mom said, I've got a teenage daughter and she's got a bad attitude and she doesn't do anything. What consequence can I give?
Yes,
to
I get
get
that
her
question
motivated?
a lot.
And I'm like, a consequence doesn't motivate a child. Like you're dealing with a kid who's kind of shut down. There's no consequence that changes that. So I asked her quickly, I was like, what does she love doing? She loves soccer and she's really good with little kids. So I said, here's what I want you to do. Go in your community. You will find this. Find a coach who's coaching little kids at soccer and say, hey, I've got this teenage daughter. She's amazing with kids, amazing for other adults. Could she come and help you with your practice on Tuesday night? So this coach, usually it helps if it's not mommy's idea or dad's idea. So if you can arrange it so another adult says, hey, Rebecca, I've heard you're really good at soccer. Could you help me on Tuesday night?
Yeah,
this is a true story.
That's a big difference, right? That right there separates whether it's going to work or not. Right there.
Yeah. So arrange that.
Yeah.
So because they'll do it for someone else because they like pleasing other people, just not you.
Correct.
So this girl, her name was Rebecca. She goes out on Tuesday night. She's in her environment. She's around little kids. She loves soccer. At the end of that practice, she got hugs from 12 little girls. When she came home that night, does she have attitude? No, because her gifts were drawn out of her and she had a purpose, something she was good at doing. So the coach said, we've got a game on Saturday morning. Could you come and help out? Well, of course she's there. So after the game, 2 sets of parents came up to this girl and said, look, we don't know who you are, but our daughters never stop talking about you. They're struggling in school. Would you consider tutoring them? Not knowing that this girl, Rebecca, has not done schoolwork in years, right? But now Rebecca has a reason to do schoolwork because she wants to help the kids, these little kids. And so the key is you have to discover what motivates your child, not what motivates you.
Yeah.
You as moms and dads, well, I'm motivated at being really good at school because when I was a kid, when I was good, I got everybody's attention and they all loved me, right? A lot of us have that childhood stuff. Yeah. And I loved school. I was good at school. Well, you may have a child who's not good at school. And so you have to discover what motivates them. And the accountability part here was that coach was able to say, look, if you're going to be helping out with these little kids, I better not hear from your mother that you're mouthing off, and you better be keeping a B average if you're going to work with my kids because I'm looking for a leader. To other people, your child will say, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, but not to you. Now we found something that Rebecca was motivated by. We do this a lot with kids who are really good with animals, get them volunteering at a veterinarian's office. That veterinarian's going to look at that child and say, you've got a gift with animals. right?
Yeah.
Not very good with people, but I'm kidding, but you're amazing with animals. You could be a vet one day. And that is the first person in that child's life who said you could be a vet one day, because everybody else is looking at the outward behavior and the bad grades.
Yeah.
And that veterinarian is going to see the gift and say, you could be a veterinarian. And that day, the daughter comes home and says, Mom, I'm going to be a veterinarian. And mom's like, I'm not even sure you're making it out of middle school
Right.
for those grades. But now that they're motivated. So I would encourage you, look for, we call it mission and mentor. A mission that they can throw themselves into.
Yeah.
I'll give you one more, and I'm sorry for dominating the conversation.
Hey, beauty of having your own podcast. You can go as long as you want.
You know who's really good with teenagers? Old people. I would find an older couple, an older man or woman in your neighborhood, and just say, hey, have them reach out to your teenager and say, hey, I need your help for 30 minutes for an hour at my house to help me with some things I'm not able to do anymore.
Yeah.
Your teenager walks into their house. They're going to love on your teenager, because old people, that almost made me cry for some reason. I felt a little, right?
Yeah.
They're just going to love on your child because they don't have to tell your child to go to bed and they're going to love your child's energy, and they miss having kids in their home, and they're going to teach them about life. And I guarantee you, your teenagers going to come home and say, yeah, I like the Robinsons down the street. They said that I'm really good at X.
Yeah.
And then just send them down there to do their homework, and they will spend a lot of time with that old couple. But it's a really effective strategy for teenagers. Old people are very grounding for teens. They went through the depression. They've been through hard times. They don't carry all that anxiety. And they have sometimes a way of reaching into a teenager's heart and saying, I remember what that was like. You know, it was 1947, but I remember it. And anyway, there's something beautiful about that.
I really, really love that. And I think, it's beneficial for both sides, because the couple probably loves having that younger energy in there too. But having somebody that just has no agenda whatsoever, and it can purely see a child's, who that child is, and see their heart and see their authenticity, and just be okay with whatever that is. When teens act out and they've got this attitude and they're nasty, it is a cry for exactly that. That is why they have attitude. They don't have attitude because they all of a sudden turned into a nasty teen. Like when people go teens these days, I'm like, there's not a conspiracy that they all meet online somewhere on TikTok and say, how are we going to be nasty today? They're reacting to their environment. That's it. Yeah. And so if they're reacting poorly, that means the environment is not giving them what they need to thrive and be okay.
Doctor, that's not their fault. I like it. Preach it. I love that. No, I can tell you're so passionate about that, because it's true.
Yeah.
And then you begin to meet those. So you control your own anxiety. You affirm them for what they're doing well, and then put them in situations, working with little kids, being with animals, being around older people, and you'll see that subtle shift. And just be patient with it, because they're fighting 13, 15, 17 years of a different way. Yeah. And so go slowly with it. But it's a cool process. And I want you to, my number one, enjoy your teenagers.
Yes.
Like, enjoy a little bit of that attitude, enjoy the energy. Ask them about their friends. They're going to talk inappropriately, of course. And sometimes you just laugh and you're like, that's inappropriate, but really spot on.
Yeah.
Right? Like, Sarah's mom is a little bit like that. You're right.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's also just accepting the teen language. Like, just because they don't use our language and they use their, like, even I see so many people complaining about their kids calling them brah. And I'm like, that's actually a term of endearment. So for them, like, it's not, parents are like, that's so disrespectful. I'm like, it's actually kind of just them being chummy with you a lot of times. So I think understanding their language.
And you can always, look, if they use it in a disrespectful way, right? And they're like, okay, bro. Well, next time they ask to be taken somewhere for money, you can just say, like, hey, what's unfortunate is that your bro doesn't have money and can't drive, but your dad can. Like, I did that with my son once.
I love that.
Like, so, but you can have fun with it instead of being like, when I was a kid, if I would have called my dad bro, right? Like when I was a kid just means you're really old.
It does. And I tell parents this all the time. I'm like, you are not as amazing and perfect as you're telling your kids that you were. I can guarantee you drove your parents absolutely crazy too.
Yeah.
So,
I always tell dads, I'm like, look, you were a dopey 8-year-old and 14-year-old. You're just
yeah,
a stupid kid
yeah,
they're just trying to figure life out.
they
And
are.
it's what you find is I always want parents, I'm like, relax a little. Like, it's like, but we have to train them. And like, we do all ages. So I'm like, I get a lot of guys who are like, well, what about my 3-year-old? I'm like, they're 3. They're like, I once told a dad, I was like, write a job description for a 3-year-old. It's not to wake up and put on a suit and it's like their job is to make messes, be curious and explore. And
Yeah.
it's same with teenagers. They're not 35 yet.
Yeah.
It's like my one other thing, if I could throw in, is normalize teen years for them. Look, this is a weird time of life.
Yeah.
There's no other time where you're going to be grouped in classes with only kids your own age, listening to people talk about stuff that you just don't care about.
Yeah.
And there's all this social stuff going on. And when you're an adult, you get to choose so much.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, it's hard. So if you feel awkward, you should. Because you are really, I'm kidding, you don't tell them that, but normalizing it so they know, oh, so this is normal that I'm feeling this? Absolutely. Your hormones are out of control. You're not even in control of your own body half the time and your mind and your thoughts. So it's like, well, they're distracted in class. I have no idea how a teenage boy can pay attention in class when there's Instagram out there. The images that can be seen as a teenage boy, like, it's a wonder that you get up in the morning and do anything. Like, really, seriously. I mean,
it's true.
I didn't mean to be inappropriate, but as teenage boys, like, we had to go like sneak around to see pictures in a magazine. And now it's like, oh, my Instagram feed is all girls with no clothes on. Like,
oh my gosh.
That's a hard world to navigate.
Yeah.
We didn't have, like, this whole social media thing, that's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard for us as adults. Like, oh, our friends are there. How come we didn't take that nice vacation?
Right. I will tell you, I see more pressure coming from parents based on what they see on Instagram and social media that they put on their kids because they're like, well, look, all my friends' kids are doing this.
No,
and
they're
so
not.
You need to. And I'm like, parents, you can't use your phone to judge your kids and what you see on their phone to judge your kids. That's a hard thing. And I think the other thing, and I don't know, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. I personally am highly annoyed with how much emphasis is being put on social media and tech as the cause of mental health issues, because I see it as basically a symptom more than the cause of more than the problem itself.
I would say I agree. I think if you, and this is I really don't like doing guilt blame for parents, right? I'm very honest with parents. I'm like, hey, you're a freak in that area. You need to stop that, cut that out. But if you have a really good bond and a good trusting relationship with your child, and they are doing some positive, constructive things, because that's kind of my goal with the mission and mentor. Let's just go 30 minutes down to the Robinson's house one day a week. Let's just start with that. Yeah. If they're starting to do that, then the outside pressures of social media won't hit them. They're inoculated a little bit. Okay. But if they always feel like I can never please my parents and everybody's trying to get me to be someone I'm not, well, then I'm much more susceptible to vaping and all those other things. So if I'd want to focus on the connection, just stay close to your kids. 100%. And even if they just sit in their room and they don't get good grades, you have smart kids. Once they get a vision for their life, the strong-willed kids often will just do the bare minimum to get by all the way through high school. And you'd be like, oh, but you're not doing this or not doing. I'm like, it's strategically brilliant.
That's like, right. They're working smart.
Why would you do extra work to get grades that you don't care about?
Exactly.
We told you in order to keep your screens, you have to have exactly a 79.3 average, and they'll get a 79.3, not a 79.4. But why wouldn't you do your best?
Right.
Because they're not motivated by it.
Right.
And then they get a little bit older. they get a vision, some agency, ownership of their lives, and then they turn it on. I'll tell you, the strong-willed kids have harder childhoods because they're not made to be kids.
Right.
But you put them in the adult world, which is where they're going to spend their rest. Look, our son, I always say, Casey was horrible as a child. He was virtually useless as a child. He didn't clean his room. He was awful. But in the real world, which is what you're raising them, you're not raising kids to be kids. You're raising them to be adults.
Right.
Our son crushes it in the real world.
Yeah.
He just stinks at all the arbitrary kid stuff that we put on him.
Yeah.
And by the way, cleaning their bedrooms, parents, there's a reason there's a door. Just chill. You're a freak and just own that. Oh, but what if there's a fire? And if there was a fire, they could get out of the home. That's an excuse.
I know.
Sit in the mess until
we
it doesn't
are so
trigger you.
on here, Kirk. We're right here. I'm exactly the same way, and I've got the messy room, and I'm like, do not even leave that cracked open because it'll give me heart palpitations. But it's your space. It's not my space. It's your space. You deal with it the way you want to deal with it. But I agree with so much everything you're saying. So I love that. So Kirk, how do people find you?
Just look up the Calm Parenting Podcast. Would be the best. We're celebratecalm.com, but the Calm Parenting Podcast. Email us if you have specific issues with teens or your kids. And some of you probably have younger kids too.
Yeah.
Hopefully more compliant, easy ones, but hopefully not. Because the strong-willed kids are going to change you and make you into a different person. It's awesome. So just at the podcast.
I love it. Thank you, Kirk, so much for joining us today. I really appreciate
Cam,
you.
you're awesome. I hope
you're awesome.
I can't wait to send a lot of our teens directly to your podcast, is because your approach is so great. You're chill. You're not freaking out about stuff, and you're really good at this. So thank you for what you're doing.
Absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate it. And that's a wrap. Thank you, parents, for taking time out of your busy day to listen in. I appreciate you. If you found the episode enlightening, please like, review, and share with a friend navigating the teen years. Until next time, stay curious. Remember, there's always more to the story than what you see.